A video footage has been released in social media, showing the Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian troops involved in the killing of several civilians in Pokrovsk city of eastern Donetsk region. The video captures the moment of Ukrainian strikes on various Russian positions. Russian troops can be seen attempting to flee in panic as Ukrainian drones are being fired. Ukrainian troops intercepted and eliminated the Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group hiding in one of the buildings at the railway station in Pokrovsk. The group infiltrated the center of the city and killed several civilians near the railway station. A woman and an elderly man were among the killed. Another woman was injured in the attack and was evacuated from the area. The 7th Air Assault Brigade reported that the defense of Pokrovsk has been reinforced with additional forces. Over the past 2 days, Ukrainian forces have eliminated 14 Russians who had managed to enter Pokrovsk. As a key logistical hub, Pokrovsk remains one of the most fiercely contested cities along the front line in eastern Donetsk. Russian forces are launching assaults from the south, southeast, and southwest in an effort to cut off Ukrainian supply routes and potentially encircle the city. Ukrainian forces are working to stall the gradual Russian advance toward Pokrovsk to stop them from pushing further into Dnipropetrovsk region. Despite being under constant pressure, Ukrainian defenders continue to hold their positions through counteroffensives, drone strikes, and defensive maneuvers, though territorial gains remain limited. Last Thursday, the General Staff of Ukrainian Armed Forces reported recapturing 182.8 square kilometers of lands and clearing another 230.1 square kilometers of Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups in Pokrovsk. The General Staff, according to the General Staff, said stabilization efforts and counter-sabotage operations were underway in Pokrovsk city and its surrounding areas, alongside active defensive actions across the district.
Russian Marines tried to capture the village of Shakov, northeast of Pokrovsk, on Thursday and failed dramatically. But the attack, involving 22 armored vehicles from the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, hinted at new tactics that, with better timing and a little luck, could help the Russians break through around Pokrovsk as their wider war on Ukraine grinds into its 44th month. Euromaidan press media outlet says the Russians made several surprising moves as they prepared to separate columns with T-80 tanks and BTR-82A wheeled infantry fighting vehicles laden with infantry. In the days leading up to the Thursday morning assault, the Russian Marines set up observation posts around their base in the village of Malinivka, 9 kilometers south of Shakov. The goal, according to the Ukrainian 1st Azov Corps, was to detect and shoot down Ukraine's night-flying heavy bomber drones, preventing them from dropping mines on the likeliest assault routes between Malinivka and Shakov. At the same time, the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, one of 5 Marine brigades and regiments the Kremlin rushed to Donetsk Oblast this summer, to bolster the center grouping of forces' faltering effort to capture Pokrovsk and clear a path toward the twin cities of Kramatorsk and Slovyansk, tried to hide its T-80s and BTR-82s, Euromaidan press reports. Both types are still in production at factories in Russia, but production of new vehicles isn't keeping up with vehicle losses. Every tank and fighting vehicle is precious, especially as the winter mud deepens and strictly foot-borne assaults become impractical all along the 1,100-kilometer front line. Normally, a Russian assault column would assemble in a base such as Malinivka and roll out the morning of a planned attack, ideally under the cover of fog or an overcast sky. But that predictable deployment pattern risks drawing heavy Ukrainian fire. To mitigate the risk, the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade sent some of its vehicles out into 3 lines around Malinivka. The maneuver was unsuccessful. The first Azov Corps reported 2 units of armored vehicles were detected by reconnaissance and destroyed by artillery and first-person view drones of the unmanned systems forces before they even tried to hide in the forest. Meanwhile, enough of Ukraine's heavy bomber drones got past the Russian observation posts to drop their mines along the roads between Malinivka and Shakov. Euromaidan Press says, all the creative measures amounted to nothing when the run rose and the 22 vehicles rolled out. Thanks to the advanced engineering equipment of the positions, effective mining and coordinated actions of the units of the Defense Forces of Ukraine, primarily artillery crews of the brigades of the armed forces and the National Guard of Ukraine, as well as the crews of the unmanned systems forces, the enemy attack was thwarted. The 1st Azov Corps boasted. The Corps hit 13 vehicles, destroying 9 of them and sending the rest scurrying back to their dugouts. They even didn't reach the front line. Ukrainian drone operator Kriegsforscher observed the weather was a critical factor. Low clouds can prevent the safe operation of drones, but the sky was clear enough on Wednesday and Thursday for Ukraine to fly lots of bomber drones and surveillance drones. Conditions could favor the Russians the next time they attack. Overall, we have terrible weather, Kriegsforscher reported, and that will help them advance, he added. In a peaceful future, there's a desire for beautiful flights, without the worry of being killed. Furthermore, the Ukrainian armed forces need to transition to modern helicopters. Yevgeny Solovyov, senior inspector pilot of the Flight Safety Service of the Army Aviation of the Ground Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, said this in an interview with Ukrainian Pravda. It's noted that when discussing the transition to the latest weaponry, drones, tanks, and aircraft are often mentioned. However, Army aviation is discussed considerably less, even though Ukrainian pilots continue to operate older Soviet aircraft. Thus, Solovyov believes that switching to helicopters capable of using Western weaponry is necessary. At the same time, he doesn't believe Ukraine should pursue promoted brands like the American Apache, as no single instrument can be a universal weapon of victory and is only effective within a fully fledged military ecosystem. The Apache is the top-of-the-line, most expensive toy, the best equipped helicopter in the world. It's like a Bugatti Veyron, classy and expensive, but it needs to be used in a comprehensive manner, he noted. Solovyov speaks very cautiously about the new generation of servicemen who grew up during the Russian-Ukrainian war, since it has not been possible to defeat Sovietism in the army everywhere. As they say, there are few fools in the army, but they are very wisely placed. And people who graduated during the Russian-Ukrainian war are learning from their superiors. There are some leaders who appoint someone to a position not because they're a professional, but because they're convenient. And so it's very difficult to say that this new generation is decisive. Still, they're probably just sprouts, but strong little stems that are growing out of the asphalt, he said. In a peaceful future, Solovyov even connects his personal dream with the sky. Have you seen those videos on social media of people flying Robinsons, a small civilian helicopter, to the supermarket for groceries? I wish I had one of those in my yard that I could fly, because I want beautiful flights where you don't have to worry about being killed, that you have to complete your missions, or that the drone you're chasing is going to crash in a field rather than a populated area. As previously reported, Ruslan Marishev, commander of the 95th Airborne Assault Brigade, noted that there's no point in hoping that ground-based robotic systems and unmanned aerial vehicles will shut everything down on their own, and that we'll just be sitting quietly in a Kiev coffee shop. He explained that drones require support and maintenance. Specifically for a single robotic system, such as the Termit, to operate, a pilot is needed to control it, a security team, and pilots to fly the transponder. That means approximately 8 military personnel are needed to fly one robot there and back.